So we're going to have two triggers for today, which is the form submission and the payment confirmation trigger. So we're going to talk about the two of them today, and I will show you a live example of how everything runs. We have the form trigger, which is I use the fill out form, and then which customer fills the onboarding form with their name, email, phone number, company name, and the selected subscription plan. That is for the trigger. And then we have the action, which is anytime we retrieve this form submission data and extract all customer fields to be prepared for the next stage. And then we create a record on Airtable. That means a new record is created in the customer table in Airtable with the customer's form details, and the payment status is set to pay. And I'll be showing you how everything looks like, so you'll be able to have a better understanding about it. And then we have the switch node, which is basically how Unitech check which subscription plan the customer selected. That means from starter, professional, and enterprise. These are the three subscription plans we have. And then we have the send. Then we send, after that we send the client or customer the payment link, which we are going to be using Stripe for that. And then a branded HTML email is sent containing the personalized Stripe link, which is going to contain each person's email address that was being filled up, so they don't need to fill it again. And that is how it helps. And the tool that we use to fill out anything: Airtable, Stripe, Gmail, and Slack. So now let's go let me show you how the payment works. Then we have the Stripe, which is whenever a successful payment is being made, then we edit the payment, because when it goes straight to anything, the .00 at the end, that means that's that decimal point, removed. So you had to make sure that I put it back to the normal amount. And then we have the Airtable lookup. That means we get the customer information from there, and then we have the update the Airtable, and then switch. We're going to send personalized emails. That means which are going to be the starter, professional, and enterprise plan. And then we send a confirmation email. That means confirmation of payment. And then the last one is we send the last two is we send an access email. That means the login email to whichever platform, to the platform that we're going to be using, which the company name is Daniels Limited, and we're going to send a Slack notification for this. So that is how it's going to run. So I'm going to show you a very quick example of how everything runs. So first of all, we're going to start with the form. This is how the form looks like. We're going to say fill the necessary information for the form. So I would say so we're going to choose the professional plan, and then you click submit. So now the next thing we want to do is check our email to confirm that this has actually entered. So let's check. And then yes, as you can see, it just came in now. So this is how it looks like. We have different setup for each plan. This is just for professionals. You can see professional plan. So this is how it looks like. And then we're going to confirm payment. So let's complete the payment on Stripe. And before that, just to confirm everything, let me show you how it looks like on Airtable. So you can confirm. As you can see, this is the name, the first name, the last name, email address, phone number, the company name, and the subscription plan is professional. Then what we're going to be added now is the Stripe payment ID, the amount, the payment date, and the status. The status here is pending, but once we finish paying, it's going to change to active. So I just want to show you that that's what we'll be updating before we continue the next process. So now as you can see, our email is showing here. That's to show it's personalized. So write in then yes, and then we're going to pay. So now the next thing we want to do is check our Gmail for the confirmation and everything. So let's check that right now. Let's go back. So as you can see, these are the two emails that just came in now. We have the first one, which is a payment confirmation email. As you can see, this is it, telling us the plan, the amount that we paid, which was 50,000, as you can see from the Stripe, and then all the information that we need to know. Now let's check for the access. The next one is the access to the platform that we'll be using. That means your account is ready. As you can see, it contains the person's name, and the platform is apps.journeylimited.com. The username is the person's Gmail, and the person doesn't set up the password. The plan, professional plan, and then everything is all set up. As you can see, it gives you all the tips that you need to know and how you can reach out to the customer in case you have any problems with that. So now let's check our Airtable back to confirm that everything is set. Yes, we have the Stripe ID, the amount, the payment date, and the payment now is active. So the last thing we need to do is to make sure that it was sent to our Slack team. So let's confirm that. So as you can see, we have new customer on board, professional plan, Franklin Daniel Breezy Franklin, the email, the plan, the amount that was paid, the date, and the information. A customer has sent their login has been sent their login details. The dedicated account manager should please follow up within 24 hours. Now let it be known that the Rubric evaluation was built before even a first node was used in creating that automation. So that means this document was made before we built the automation. So if you are building a rubric or a benchmark or something, the benchmark happen after, while the rubric evaluation happens before you build. So I would just like to clarify that. So I'll be doing a brief summary of how the rubric evaluation looks like, so you'll be able to have a better understanding about that. So first of all, we have our agent overview, which is just a very short intro about it. Then we have the flow summary, which explains what we built. That means the rubric evaluation, what we want to build, how the automation should be. And then we have the flow step reference, which is all the steps needed for the automation to be complete. So these are all the steps. We have the onboarding form, the Stripe payment link. All these are the steps the automation has to take for it to be considered complete. And then we have the 3-layer success criteria. When you are doing a rubric evaluation, these 3 criteria are very, very important. You need it every single time. The first one is task completion, which is a criteria to define the observable physical outcome that must have occurred by the end of the section. So these are binary, either they happen or they do not happen. So you'll be able to define if a task is completed or not. So that is how we'll be able to do that. And the next one is the process quality. Now the process quality is not just about whether the task was completed, but how well it was completed. So it's possible for you to have a completed task, but the process were not really done according to the way it's supposed to be. So that's actually a flawed process, and the quality is a very low process. So we have the layer 2, which is process quality, and these are all the criteria under process quality. I'm sorry if I'm moving too fast, so I'll just try to slow it down a bit, but I just don't want to waste too much time, so I'll not be reading everything from it. Now the last one is, like I said, we have 3 criteria. The last one is the user outcome. So this defines the experience and confidence level of the customer at the end of the onboarding. So it's basically a trust level. Would the customer still want to continue using this automation at the end of that problem, or would the trust falter? So that is the purpose of the user outcome. So at the end of it, would the customer still want to use that automation, or would they have doubt at the end of it? So that is basically the steps for the user outcome. And then we have the failure mode analysis. This is basically your edge cases, thinking in your head what are some of the problems that might arise and how severe would they be. So we have some of the steps, we have some of the failure mode, so that means some of the edge cases that might happen, and some of the consequences, that means the consequences that will happen if that failure happens, and how severe would that problem be. That's how you can see high, medium, and we have what is the best way for us to detect this failure, and those are the whole thing there. So we have different failure modes, that means different example of and they are scaled into low, medium, and high. It's very important for you to notice that. As you can see, we have high, medium. So if something is very high, you know that's something that you need to fix immediately. And if something is medium, you need to fix it, but it might not be that immediately. But if it's low, it's something that you can live for a while, but you need to make sure that it gets sorted out. So that's why we have to classify them this way. And now this is where the main thing is: how do we evaluate all this? So we did this on a score of 1 to 3, which is 1 is fail, 2 is partial, 3 is pass. And all this explains the criteria for the rubric. So that means we explain how a 3 looks like and how a 1 looks like. Even though I'll still be showing you in a sheet how explicit what I just did here is. So we have what is called, so in case we are having 1 or 2 or even 3 or more annotators, that means people that are given scores that are scoring this automation, almost all of them would conclude in the same rating, just because we've defined what a 3 should look like or not. So it's very important that when you are doing your rubric evaluation, you explicitly state what each skill should be and give examples of how it should look like. So next we have the scoring. So as you can see, we have 9 criteria that we need to watch out for. So these are the 9 criteria here: payment link delivery, webhook processing, Airtable record completeness, step sequence adherence, error handling, data accuracy, email. So all this, and we have, if you remember, we have everything is 1 is fail, 2 is partial, 3 is pass. So basically the top is over 3. So if you finish each step, you need to grade them according to each step over 3. So if we now have 9 rows, that is 9 times 3, that is 27. And then we now say that, okay, the pass mark should be 22 points, which is 80%. So if after evaluating you find out that everything, the one is the edge case you made, is below 22, that means your criterion is below 22 points, that is a fail. So that means you need to work on that specific problem again. That's why it's important for you to actually know what you want your threshold to be. You can decide that you want your pass threshold to be 90%, or you can decide to be lesser than that, depending on what you want, but it's always very important for you to be 80 and above. So I'm going to show you a quick example of how this looks like. This is how the whole benchmark is. This is basically the benchmark. I'm not really going to go deep into that. I just wanted to just show you how my benchmark looks like. And after that, I'm going to show you how the logs look like. As you can see, this is how the rating is. I thought we have 9 rows here. As you can see, we have the 1, 2, 3, which are the columns, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and everything is either 3, 2, or 1. So as you can see, if you have any 1 here, it needs to be critically reviewed. But if it's okay, we know that we need to review it, though it might not be critical. But as long as you get a perfect one, just like Chidi, and everything was able to work perfectly well, which he got a 27 points. Yes, that is very, very important. So, and very important, I used a human review for this. That means I was the one that graded it myself. If we are using an LLM as a judge, that is a very, very different scenario. But for this, I used a human review. So that means I did all this myself because there was no AI involved in this. In the building of the automation, all I just did was a very, very simple workflow automation with no AI agent involved in it. So that's how I was able to grade it with different edge cases to determine this. So I just wanted to just show you how a rubric evaluation looks like, because like I said before, it's something that you need to do before building anything, because it's very, very important that you do this before thinking of doing anything else. So this will actually will give you an idea of how the workflow should look like, some of the edge cases, some of the few shots, that means the examples you need to give to the agent, and it will be very, very easy at that way. So thank you very much. And if you actually want this document, any of the documents, you can just comment below and let me know, and I'll actually send it to you. Thank you.